I hate to be biblical about it and go like Book of Revelations and all of this.
Yeah.
These are patterns, like these are ancient patterns, right? So the people who are writing about these things, these are ancient patterns that human beings repeat over and over and over again. And even if we go back to the idea of the mark of the beast, the idea that the population asks for it, that they bring it in, the idea that the vampire is always invited in, this concept is a recurring theme. And if you look, you go back to World War II. The Bolsheviks were the population brought them into power. The Nazis, the population brought them into power. The majority did. Hitler was an elected official.
Yeah.
He was elected by the majority. You know, Mao, same thing. Pol Pot, all of them. It doesn't matter. Name the tyranny. It's always brought in by the majority. And in this case, people will take the vaccine because if you don't take the vaccine, they're going to take away your UBI. It's going to be that simple. And they're going to force people into a decision. And it's just, to me, it's so obvious. It's like, how does this happen any other way? They've already said they're going to start cutting checks. Those are not going to come with no strings attached, folks. It's not no strings attached. And they've got to pay these pharmaceutical companies. It's use it or lose it. That's how this shit works. Public-private partnership.
So it looks like moving to Costa Rica on a self-sufficient farm with some small community that were armed seems pretty good.
I've got a few bug out spots in mind. But like I say, I think that it's not going to be door-to-door vaccination. I think that it's really going to be much more about, if you don't do this, you don't get the money. And
and also the public school stuff. If you want to go public school, send your kids. They already do it over here. Like, you want to go to a certain school, you have to have vaccines.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same thing. Like, your kids can't go back to school. And if your kids aren't in school, you don't get the UBI. It's all of the things, right? Like, here are all of the list of things. If you're unable to check these off, you don't get the UBI, which is fine. You can decide not to get it, right? But you'll probably be denied access to a whole bunch of different places. Like, you might not be able to go into the grocery store. You might not be able to order from Amazon, right? But if you can survive otherwise, go for it. But if you wind up homeless, if we see you out on the street, not able to support yourself, off to the concentration camp you go.
Sounds like China.
Well, it's what the USSR was, right? Yeah. Except that what they used to do. So my wife was born in the USSR, right? So she's like, nah, everybody worked, because if they saw you on the street, if you were homeless, she was like, there were no homeless, because if they saw you even for one day on the street when everybody else was working, they literally threw you in the back of a van and they took you to a job. They took you to a factory. They took you to a mine. They took you to cut down trees in a forestry program. They took you somewhere and they put you to work. But now there's no work. There's not going to be anything for people to work on, right? We're going to get all of it. We're going to get the automation, all of it. Most of the businesses are going to fail. Only the big boys are going to stick around. They're going to gobble up all the rest. They're going to automate everything that can be automated. It's going to be a nightmare, man. It really is. But the people are going to clamor for it. They're going to clamor for it. But dude, the video games are going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing video games. I don't know how they're going to do sports. I don't know whether the arenas are still going to be filled with people. They might shut that shit down, but there will still be sports on TV. UFC is going to blow up, right? Boxing will be right back to bread and circuses. All kinds of different entertainment, man. The entertainment's going to be fucking fantastic, but that's the case in 1984 too. That's the case. Like in Orwell's 1984, the entertainment is awesome.
Of course, an escape from reality, so it distracts you from the problems, or distracts you from asking the right questions. Yeah. So, are you familiar with the movie Equilibrium?
Yes.
Yeah.
the Christian Bale, the gun kata.
It's fucking sick.
I really like that movie a lot, actually.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that is the idea that you're going to put everybody on drugs. We're already really close to that.
Mm-hmm.
We're already really close to that. I mean, if people don't think that when you're binge watching Game of Thrones for the entire day, if they don't think that's the equivalent to being stoned, or to being on heroin all day, what's the functional difference? You're laying on a couch, immobile, not doing anything. It's the same thing.
So let me ask you this, Finn. If people who are watching or listening to this, they're like, well, fuck, I don't want to be part of this, or what can I do right now? Like, what are steps that people can do, or what are things people can learn about to use your terminology, kind of opt out of this in the future, or at least prepare themselves for a future that kind of looks dystopian in my eyes?
Well, I mean, I'm going to show my own newsletter, right? Countermarkets.com.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So we've been around for years at this point, and we've been writing that this is going to happen, and talking about, our tagline is trends and strategies for maximum freedom. And so it's an agorist newsletter, the first one that there ever has been. So we talk about black markets and gray markets. We talk about self-sufficiency. We write about precious metals. We write about cryptocurrency, and anyone who's a subscriber can also be part of our private Telegram mastermind group, and you get all the back issues if you subscribe. You can use cryptocurrency. I'll tell you what I am telling our own subscribers, what I'm telling the people close to me. The first thing is, and now in many places it's already too late. Your first goal is to make it through, let's say, the next 4 to 5 months while this is being put into place, while the governments are putting these activities into place, while the businesses are falling apart. Your job is to make it through that. And so this is going to require, they want us to do social distancing because they want us to not be able to use each other as resources. They want us to stay away from each other because if we get close to each other, we'll help each other. And if we help each other, we won't be dependent. And if we're not dependent, we won't take the mark of the beast, for lack of a better term, which is this UBI. So your job is now is the time to start reaching out to your family. Whatever family you have, and your friends, your close friends. And even if these are if you don't have close family or friends, even if these are online people that you trust or you like, now is the time to start cementing those relationships and listening. So listen. Your job is to make it through in a state where you still have some options at the end of 4 to 5 months. So if you haven't prepared already, do the best that you can, but also, reach out to those around you. Now is the time to meet your neighbors. Now is the time to start developing those relationships. Look out and if you have some resources, look out for the people around you. But you're listening, you're waiting. You want to see how this thing works out. Number one, don't panic. Don't panic. There's a lot of people who are having anxiety right now. I know there's a lot of people who are having anxiety attacks. We're probably going to see a rash of suicides coming up. We did in 2008. Significant increase in suicides. Your job is to not panic, because if you don't panic, you're going to be okay. You really are. Keep your ears open. And really right now what you're looking for means to communicate with other people who may need what you can provide and who can provide what you need. And it's going to be these informal networks. It always has been in every totalitarian system. Like, for instance, Samizdat in the USSR, that system, it's always these informal networks. Those are the people who are able to survive and thrive. So it was, when the wall fell and the USSR fell, it was the Russian mafia that ended up, and the people who were supported by them, a lot of them became oligarchs, who ended up in control of everything.
Yep.
The people who had the informal economy. So that's what you want to be. It doesn't mean you want to be out killing people, and that's not going to be necessary. It doesn't mean that you need to be shaking people down or doing any of that. The Russian mafia came up because they were able to supply simple goods and services. When you're on lockdown, go on YouTube. Instead of just binging and trying to take that opiate, go and try to learn something. If you've always wanted to learn how to code, now's your opportunity. You're on lockdown. Go on YouTube and start taking some basic courses, right? If you want to learn how to garden, go on YouTube. Do that, right? Cook. Teach yourself how to cook. With whatever little bit you have, teach yourself how to cook. Find some recipes and teach yourself. Get a skill, right? Get a skill that everybody's going to want. Everybody wants food. People are going to need code. Those are going to be two things that are going to be necessary. So that's what I'm telling people is like, if you don't have a skill, get a skill. Don't panic. Your job is to make it through the next 4 to 5 months and still have options at the end.
Love it. Then if people want to get to know you a little bit more, what are the best resources? I know you mentioned the newsletter. Is that the best place for them to check out?
I mean, countermarkets.com. I would love it if people subscribe to that. But look, if you want to interact with me, at Vin Armani on Twitter is probably the easiest way to go. Also on YouTube, I put out videos almost every week. And so they will be topical now coming up. They've been on Bitcoin for about the last 3 months, maybe. People might want to go back and watch that series because now they'll be topical around that as well. And I'll be trying to provide some thoughts as we move forward. So at Vin Armani at Twitter is probably the best place.
Vin, thank you, brother. Always a pleasure, man.
Thank you, Ameer. Thank you. This is great.